Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. A nominee for the iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award. We are so happy, so thankful that you're out there, that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids podcast family. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest for you today. She's here to tell us about her brand new book called The Adventures of Princess Jellybean. Her name is Cindi Handley Goodeaux. Did you ever notice how many books, how many movies, how many TV shows have the word adventure as part of the title? Like our guest today's book, The Adventures of Princess Jellybean. Do you ever wonder why so many books talk about adventure? It's because kids love adventures. They love exploring. They have a natural curiosity inside of them that is just waiting to be sparked and ignited. And if you are looking for a holiday gift to ignite that spark within one of the kids that you love, I have the perfect gift for you. It's Little Passports. Little Passports is the perfect holiday gift for the curious kids of all ages that are in your life. Little Passports delivers fun-filled packages right to their door every single month with engaging hands-on activities, totally interactive projects, and unique souvenirs just waiting to be discovered. Little Passports monthly subscriptions are designed to spark kids' curiosity about geography, world culture, or science. From exploring sea creatures in Costa Rica, and there's so many amazing sea creatures in Costa Rica, to building a building like Big Ben, just like the one in England, or making an ancient Greek headpiece. Every month is a different adventure that will fuel their imagination and spark their natural curiosity of the world around them. It is the perfect gift for kids ages 3 to 13 this holiday season. You can order today by going to littlepassports.com/reading. littlepassports.com/reading. Joining us on the line right now for one of my favorite places in the world. I do say that a lot, but it's true. I visit a lot of places around the world, and I'm always meeting nice people. I'm always having a great time. And one of those places is Jacksonville in Florida. Wonderful, wonderful community. And we have a wonderful guest on today from Jacksonville. She is the author of The Adventures of Princess Jellybean. Please welcome to the show, Cindi Handley Goodeaux. Cindi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am wondering. Cindi has this giant smile. She is just radiating. I can feel the warmth from her smile all the way up here in Boston. She's down in Jacksonville, just 1,800 miles away, but that smile is just radiating. I love it. And Princess Jellybean, The Adventures of Princess Jellybean, a great, great book. And that also has those radiating illustrations in the book. Why don't you tell us about the book?
Well, The Adventures of Princess Jellybean is about a princess. She gets bored in her comfy castle life, and she decides she wants to go explore the world she's only read about. So this first book, she grows up in the kingdom. You get to know her best friend, her family, and her excitement of life and learning to read. And then when she gets old enough, she goes on her first adventure, and she meets some children who are playing with some clowns, and the children, some have disabilities, and she learns to see this as a normal part of life. So that's really the purpose of this first book, is to really show that kids that disability is just a normal part of life. So I use simple words like singing out loud or signing with happy hands to kind of try to correlate that for them.
Wonderful, wonderful. I have to tell you, I'm really happy that there are more and more books being published with this message. And it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I've mentioned it on the podcast in the past. In 1989, when I was just starting out as a performer, I had the opportunity to write and produce a disabilities awareness video. And what we had done is I had been working in a school for kids with severe developmental disabilities. and they hired a person with no experience working with that population because they wanted to get these kids into the community. And they wanted somebody who was a little bit silly. I certainly fit that position. But also someone who didn't see the obstacles, who just saw some kids and, wanted to find ways to bring them out in the community and give them opportunities to develop friendships. And that part of the program was incredibly popular and successful. And then, I was tasked to create a video about it, and the people I was working with were just open-minded enough to say, yeah, let's not do a boring educational disability awareness video. Let's do it with clowns and magic and kids of all different colors, shapes, sizes, and abilities. Nice. And it was great. And it was right around the time that the Americans with Disability Act was being passed. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting back and I'm thinking that was 29 years ago. And I know that because that's how I met my wife, was the process of producing that video. But we're not there yet. There's still a need for books like The Adventures of Princess Jellybean.
Absolutely.
Now, I kind of fell into that role of advocacy by accident. I wasn't looking for it. How did you come to want to advocate for all kids through writing The Adventures of Princess Jellybean?
Well, there was a few things.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up as a disability advocate, not knowing what that was. Mm-hmm. I just always stood up for the kid who was being bullied. Mm-hmm. They called me the bully buster. I couldn't stand to see children being bullied because of their disabilities. Mm-hmm. It made no sense to me. And then I became part of a board at work. I'm on the board of a group called Possibilities, which represents the interests of people with disabilities. We work to get our website 508 compliant, which means that it's accessible to people who have visual or hearing disabilities. Mm-hmm. And then my husband is actually legally blind, and working with him and helping him advocate for him, I learned a lot. And so I get to share that through this group. So when the opportunity came up to write a book, I felt that was a way I could share it with kids. Mm-hmm. The same message.
Did you find kids? Now, one of the things that I found, and it was really kind of eye-opening for me, and again, when I was working with these kids with these severe developmental disabilities, they were 12, 15, 18 years old, and they couldn't walk and they couldn't talk, and they were functioning on a 18-month-old level or 3-year-old level. But like I said, I came into it and I just saw kids. And I saw kids because while they couldn't do the things, they couldn't read or talk, but the 12-year-olds were interested in a lot of the same thing typical 12-year-olds were interested in. Like the 12-year-old guys are interested in girls.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I can relate to this kid. It was really easy introducing them to the typical kids, and for those typical kids to develop relationships with them. The hard part was the teachers. It was really hard convincing the teachers in the typical schools, the typical classrooms, to kind of open up their doors. But it was especially hard to convince the teachers and the therapists working with those kids with disabilities to let them go and go out into the community. They were incredibly overprotective, and it was coming from a good place, but wow, it was really hard.
Yeah, it definitely puts them at a disadvantage because they're not socializing, mm-hmm. and also they're not being able to be just children, and that's what they are. They just want to be kids like every other kid.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I'm really excited about, because I think I'm just imagining, a family sitting down and reading The Adventures of Princess Jellybean. I bet a lot of kids are going to read the book and probably not even notice that some of the characters have disabilities. They're just going to see them as kids.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my hope too. Yeah. I would love for us as a society to get to that point where we just see them as people, mm-hmm. as fellow members of society and fellow children that are playing with other children that may not have a disability. But mm-hmm. I did have a friend whose son has a severe disability, and she actually took my book to his school, mm-hmm. To introduce the fact that he was coming back to school with a disability he'd developed over the summer. And it really touched me that she was able to use the book that way, that she was able to use it to show he's just a normal kid.
Right.
He wants the same things like you said. He wants the same things you want. He wants to play the same way.
Right.
So that really touched me that she would use the book that way. I'm hopeful that it will open a lot of eyes.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something, and you said, you hope that the book will help kids who don't have any disabilities. When you kind of get down to it, I don't know if I've met any kids who don't have some kind of challenge in their life.
Absolutely.
But some kids are able to hide it better than others, or with some kids it's just not as obvious as with others. And I think that's something. If we help kids kind of understand that it could really it can really help everybody, really help those kids, because one of the things I find, especially when my son was in middle school, one of the most interesting things was all of his buddies worked really, really hard to pretend that they were perfect and that they knew everything. The reality was none of them knew anything at all.
It's true.
And you know what? I remember, and I was actually remember performing for his group of kids, and I just came up with that, and your lives would be so much easier if you just admit to yourself you don't know anything and just start from there.
It's so true.
And a lot of them did, and their life was a lot easier from that point on.
That's great. You got your message across. That's great.
I did. So you said that you've had that great reaction from that parent who was able to use it to use the book to advocate for her son and to kind of open up doors and open up eyes. What other kind of reactions have you had from folks who've read the book and experienced the book?
Well, I was able to volunteer at a symposium for people who have disabilities who are looking for jobs, and I had a table there, and the people who were advocating for people with disabilities, really embraced the concept of the book. I had a lot of hugs and high fives because they saw a need for this. And after speaking with them, I actually have a plan to write a children's book about disability etiquette, because I think that a lot of the barriers is they see someone who's different from them for whatever reason, and they don't know how to interact. They don't understand it. It's just a matter of hi. They for some reason perceive that I can't talk to the person this way. Maybe they don't understand me the right way. But really just the word hi can open so many doors. And then understanding how to approach somebody helps a lot. So that's my hope, is that that information will help just promote interaction. Just to say, this is a person, you're a person, this is how you can interact.
I want to, you're right. That word hi can open up so many doors. And I always tell folks, if you're visiting another country, you don't have to learn Mandarin, you don't have to learn French, but learn how to say hello.
Yes.
And I just had an experience. I was down in Panama. My wife and I went down, and my wife speaks Spanish. I speak a little bit of Spanish. I had completely forgotten that the United States had invaded Panama, within the last 20 years. And so there's a little bit of resentment there that I wasn't aware of going in. But one of the things I did coming from the airport was just ask the taxi driver. I said, hey, what's an expression down here that just folks in Panama use that would really kind of open up some eyes and just bring out a smile? And he told me that in Panama, Panamanians say, instead of saying que pasa or hola, they say que sopa, que sopa. And so I used that. And so everywhere I went, I would encounter, they would see me because I was obviously American, because I was wearing a Panama hat and shorts. And I would walk up to them, and there'd be a little bit of a wall there. But as soon as I said, que sopa, the wall would fall, the smiles would come out, they'd laugh, and we were best friends.
That's perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
But you mentioned something about that disability etiquette. Give us an idea beyond just saying hello. How can we approach folks with disabilities? Cindi will be back to share her thoughts on the best way for us to approach folks with disabilities, the most respectful way for us to approach folks with disabilities. Before she does, I know that you might be looking for the perfect holiday gift for the curious kids in your life. Well, let me tell you, Little Passports is the perfect holiday gift for curious kids of all ages. Little Passports delivers fun-filled packages right to their door every single month, filled with engaging hands-on activities and totally interactive projects and unique souvenirs that are just waiting to be discovered. Little Passports monthly subscriptions are designed to spark children's curiosity about geography, world culture, or science. From exploring sea creatures in Costa Rica to building a Big Ben just like the one in England or making an ancient Greek headpiece, every month is a different adventure that will fuel their imagination and spark their natural curiosity of the world around them. It's the perfect gift for kids ages 3 to 13 this holiday season. Order today by going to littlepassports.com/reading. That's littlepassports.com/reading. Give us an idea beyond just saying hello. How can we approach folks with disabilities?
I'm happy you asked. I love to share this information. One of the things is an interpreter. And this is true whether it's a deaf interpreter or an interpreter for another language. You're supposed to look at the person you're communicating with, the person who is deaf or speaks another language, and not the interpreter, because it's rude for you to not look at the person who's communicating with you. The interpreter is actually interpreting. That kind of goes without saying. But another one would be if someone's in a wheelchair, don't put your hands on their wheelchair. That's an extension of their personal being, and it's not something you should be doing. If there's someone deaf who's in the room, offer an elbow. Not deaf, I'm sorry, blind. If they're blind, offer an elbow, and don't just grab them by the arm to direct them. Say, do you need some help? Which is important for any type of disability. Do you need some help? And be okay with if they say no, because sometimes they may say no.
Yeah.
I've had that experience, and it kind of took me back. It's like, I want to help, but okay. But if they say yes, then how can I help you? If it's a person who's blind, you want to take my elbow, and then you help guide them through the room. Another one for a person who's blind is if you walk in the room, speak. Hi, it's Cindi. That way they know that you're in the room and you're not just this phantom that they can't see, but they know you're there because of your voice.
Right.
So it's just another way of finding how to communicate.
You know, a subtle thing like offering your elbow to someone as opposed to grabbing that person's elbow. You know, someone listening might sit down and be saying, well, what's the difference? There's a big difference. On the one hand, you're offering some help, and you're enabling the person, empowering the person to accept the help.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when you're grabbing someone's elbow, you're just dragging them around the room.
Exactly.
Yeah. And again, I think it's important to share this knowledge because folks don't know.
Exactly.
You know, I didn't know the first time I was asked to help navigate a blind person around a room. And I made that mistake. I came up and grabbed them by the elbow, and the person let me know that I'd made a mistake. And from that point on, we were buddies. So it's just like we were talking about those middle school kids who didn't know anything. It's important for us to kind of sit back and say, hey, how can we help? I want to help.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And be prepared to be told, no, I don't need your help.
Yes.
That was the hardest thing for me. A friend of mine was in a wheelchair, and I said, do you want me to get the door? She said no, and it was like, I'm just trying to help. Why would you tell me no? But it's her prerogative to say no. It's that empowerment. I gave her the power to say no.
Right. Yeah, you know, it's a lot like when I often tell parents, if you ask a kid's opinion, what do you think about this? If they share their opinion with you, it's right. You might not agree with it, but it's right because you asked what their opinion is, and that's what their opinion is, and they're entitled to their opinion. And if you want to say why you don't agree with them in a polite way, that's okay. Same thing with someone who is you might perceive as needing help. Give them the opportunity to accept it, and most of all, give them the opportunity to let them know how they would like you to help them if they want help. Yeah. When you're telling folks these etiquettes and helping them understand that, do you find people appreciative of the knowledge, or do they kind of cop an attitude?
Actually, we find that people are appreciative of the knowledge because they perceive this barrier. And I say perceive because it's usually not a real thing. It's just knowing. When they perceive that barrier, then we've just given them a key to unlock that communication. So in a job interview I had a couple of years ago, I talked about disability etiquette in that job interview, and they had just hired someone in a wheelchair, and they were very eager to know, can you give us some tips? What things would be helpful? How should we approach him? What can we say? And I was very excited to be able to share this because people are very eager to know how to interact with someone who's in any way different from them.
Right. I think you just hit on something that I think we forget sometimes, especially now. We're speaking on Election Day here in the United States, and our country has just been rocked by the most disgusting, disrespectful, vile political discussions coming from both sides of the aisle. No one's able to sit down and talk. It seems like no one's heard of the expression, we can agree to disagree. But that's what it seems like today. I think because of that, we forget the fact that most people are good. Most people, we see things from different perspectives, and if we take the time to help somebody that disagrees with us understand our perspective, and we take the time to look at the world through their perspective, again, we may not come to the same conclusions, but I think we can learn to respect each other.
There's the word, respect.
Yes. Yeah. And it goes just not only with, respecting opinions, but also respecting folks' abilities and respecting a person by giving them a chance to do or to fail or to succeed on their own, or on their own terms.
I do feel like everything comes down to respect. Mm-hmm. If you can respect different opinions, if you can respect differences of perceptions of your families, it's all about respect. Just give another person a respect by the fact that they are another human being and you are a human being and you both deserve respect.
Yeah.
But I agree that word is so huge. Respect is what it's all about.
Yeah. I want to share with you just because I think it's going to bring that smile back to that. Not that it's left; it's still there. But I just want to bring a smile to your face. I was performing in a school in very, very rural Pennsylvania, and when I arrived at the school, I typically like to say hi to kids, and I usually say it in different languages: "Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa," and that makes kids smile. And if there's somebody in the audience who does speak another language and they hear theirs, it's like, oh. And if I meet somebody who is hearing impaired, I know how to sign a couple of things. And one thing I know how to sign is, you have a beautiful smile. And that's a great thing to know how to say.
And I could say thank you.
Yes, exactly, yes. And so I met this young woman who had a beautiful smile, and I let her know, and the interpreter was very surprised that I could do that. And this kid was really anxious to help. And the interpreter was like, oh, no, she can't help because she can't, So I asked her to come up to do my grand finale, which is a levitation illusion. And when I brought the young woman up and I made the introduction, and the interpreter heard the introduction, what she was going to do, and she stopped interpreting, and she's like, no, she can't do this. And the teacher's like, no. And I just signed to the kid, and the kid could read some lips. I says, do you trust me? Do you want to try this? And the kid was like, yes, absolutely. So I asked, very politely and respectfully, asked the interpreters and the teachers to sit down and to trust the kid. We did this. The kid did an amazing job. She had such a great time. She was floating in the air. Her classmates were amazed. And then when she came down and she went up to take her bow, I was amazed because the 400 kids in the audience, they didn't make a sound, but they raised their hands to applaud
wonderful.
With sign language. Automatically, no one gave them a clue or an instruction. It was just, hey, this is what we're doing. And it was just so natural and so beautiful.
That gave me goosebumps. That's awesome. I love that so much.
It was great. Hey, we would be very disrespectful if we didn't acknowledge the illustrator of your book. And I'm saying that, I don't always remember this, but you and I share an illustrator. So tell us about our friend.
Sanghamitra Dasgupta is one of the most amazing illustrators in the world to me. She is so fast and so talented. It blows me away. She can do just about any style. Mm-hmm. And I am positively thrilled with the way my book turned out. She's phenomenal.
Yes, she really is. She just illustrated my latest book, Love That I Matter to You. And she has also illustrated The Adventures of Princess Jellybean and about a bazillion other books. She really is amazing, and she is incredibly productive, and she's really, really talented, you know, and her illustrations are unique and original and wonderful. And I don't know, I didn't realize this until I started working with Sanghamitra and also my niece on my other books. An illustrator really helps tell the story that the author is crafting.
Yeah, absolutely. They take your ideas and give it a visual, mm-hmm. which is really cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited. I think folks will love having The Adventures of Princess Jellybean in their home. Now, you kind of hinted that this is book number 1 in a series. Can you give us some previews of what's coming up in the series?
Sure. In book 2, she meets a possum who has memory problems and she can't remember her way home. The two of them learn to read a map. So that I felt like was a way to introduce children to reading maps. Mm-hmm. So it was very basic, you know, a tree and a mountain. Mm-hmm. But it introduces that concept, but it also introduces the concept of helping is an adventure. Mm-hmm. So that's the second one. The third one, they meet a little boy who happens to be in a wheelchair, and he's a magician, and he teaches Jellybean about imagination through his sleight of hand and illusions. So I'm very excited about that one. And then book 4, she goes to an all-kingdom festival. Uh-huh. She reunites with her best friend we meet in book 1, and then someone steals something from her, and she has to decide if she's going to forgive that person. So it's a mystery, but also it's about forgiveness.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I would love to have you come back to tell us about all those books when they come up, but especially the one about the magician.
Yes, of course.
Close to my heart. You can probably teach me some things. Well, we've had such a wonderful time speaking to you today. The name of the book is The Adventures of Princess Jellybean. Cindi, where can folks find out more about the book, and where can they find the book?
Well, the book is currently on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Pre-order. It comes out Sunday, 11/11. Uh-huh. It's also available through Crimson Cloak Publishing's website and my website.
Mm-hmm. And tell us your website.
Well, it's ch.goodeaux, GOODEAUX.com, and you go to the books page, and it's there for sale.
Awesome. We've had such a great time speaking today to Cindi Handley Goodeaux. Check out the Adventures of Princess Jellybean and her website. Cindi, thanks so much for sharing your smile and sharing this time with us today.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be coming to us from Singapore. She's the author of a beautiful book called Rocky the Rocket Soar. Her name is Ellen Oberio, and I have to tell you, Ellen's a new author. Well, she's published a number of books, but this is her first appearance on a podcast or any kind of interview show, and she was so nervous. And leading up to it, she was writing to me, and I'm so nervous. I don't know if I can do this. And I said to her, I goes, just imagine we're just having a conversation over the phone. Just imagine that you're talking to one of your neighbors about your beautiful book. And she really took that to heart, and that's what we had. We had this really beautiful, wonderful conversation about curiosity and inspiration and where our ideas come from. So you don't want to miss it. Please make sure you listen in the next episode of the podcast. And talking about please go to the iHeartRadio Podcast Award page and vote for the Reading with Your Kids podcast. As I've said, we've been nominated as the iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award. I'm telling you, I'm blown away, and our competition is really, really stiff. a couple of NPR shows and a couple of other shows from other networks. There's only 5 shows out of the thousands and thousands of kids and family shows that are out there. Only 5 of them have been nominated for this award. And the ultimate award is going to be decided on listener votes. And you have a chance to vote for us by going to the iHeartRadio Podcast Awards page. Slide on down to the Kids and Family competition, and you can vote up to 5 times a day. That means you can vote for our show 5 times, and you can do it each day. And if there are more people in your family, they can all vote 5 times each day. I know that's a lot to ask, but if you have the time, we'd be really, really grateful. Hey, you know who else we're grateful to? We're really grateful to Cindi Handley Goodeaux for coming on here today. And of course, we're really grateful to our sponsor, Little Passports. Little Passports is a perfect holiday gift for that curious kid on your list. With the subscription to Little Passports, kids get a fun-filled package each month designed to inspire their curiosity in geography, world cultures, or science. For kids of all ages, order today at littlepassports.com/reading. littlepassports.com/reading. And oh, I almost forgot. We want to thank you. Thank you so much for being part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids podcast family. Thanks to subscribing to the show on iTunes or iHeartRadio or Podcast Addict or Stitcher or Spotify or any one of the other bazillion podcasting platforms that are carrying us today. We're on radio.com. Intercom, the second biggest radio company in the United States, they just added a podcasting platform. They asked us to allow them to put our podcast on there. We said absolutely. And of course, you can also subscribe to the show on our website, readingwithyourkids.com. So thank you so much for doing that. And of course, thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.